So after that, Terrence Graves, Southern University. I don't have much, but what is the thought? What's circulating the HBCU metaverse there?
Okay, so here's the thing. So obviously Southern earlier this year they parted ways with Eric Dooley. He was a guy that was very people were very high on. He's Pete Richardson disciple, and had done a lot of great things. They were expecting those things to happen at Southern University under him. They did not. So now they bring in Coach Terrence Graves, who also a Pete Richardson disciple. He actually played for him at Winston-Salem State University back in the '90s. And he's been on a lot of successful staffs. He was also on those Grambling staffs that were really good. I believe on the one that won the Celebration Bowl as well. So he knows how to win. He's been a career assistant. And some people will say that this is a safe hire, and I would agree. It is a safe hire. He's somebody who's already on the staff. He's somebody who knows the SWAC, who knows Southern, and there's a lot of energy behind him. A lot of people are happy for him. I know a lot of people, we thought he was gonna get some other jobs, and he's been up for him. He's been close, but this time he actually went through for him. So I think I'm excited about it, and I think a lot of people are too, to see just kind of what he can do.
I think it's a good move for Southern. I also think it's the safe move. You're talking about it's December, right? Like, transfer portal is wide open right now. We know the landscape of college football, so you had to get somebody in. With obviously Dooley going out and things like that, I don't necessarily know where Southern falls within the SWAC West right now. What that means for them next season. Will they be potentially in contention for another, SWAC West crown if they're being in contention for it? But I just think that kudos to Graves for getting the opportunity. I mean, he's been some different places. He's been at Southern before, like you said. Pete Richardson disciple, had experience going up against Graham, so you know what that means. The Bayou Classic will be interesting. Lots of storylines to talk about. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do in a very limited amount of time in terms of recruiting, bringing in players, and things of that nature.
We got to talk about this too, though. You talk about this hire. You talk about, because we are in the media business, right? So we had earlier in the week a report came out where Southern's AD Roman Banks was quoted as saying, they had some guys in here, but they wanted a Power 5 level salary, and they just don't have that level of salary. And he said, but which is, it's okay to admit that, but the actual quote was that this is a low-paying job. Or the pay might be low. Mm-hmm. That's what was said, and that is not really. You're not really going to inspire a lot of confidence, outside of those four walls with those types of statements, especially. When you're at a place where people expect to win, and there's so much pride there, Baton Rouge and everything like that. I was actually in Baton Rouge last week, and that was what the talk was. It was like, why would you put that out there like that? I mean, so it's going to be, for Coach Graves, I know he's going to take it with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. This is something that he wanted to do his entire career, is be a head coach. He's paid his dues and everything like that. And, we talked about Wilton, we talked about, during the Deion era where, it looked like there were going to be a lot of former NFL guys mm-hmm. that were going to skip over guys that were going to go to that were HBCU lifers like Terrence Graves. I think it's great that he's got a shot to do it, and if he ends up winning the SWAC, getting Southern to the Celebration Bowl, I think there's going to be a lot of I think that's going to validate what a lot of people thought.
Oh, if he gets to the Celebration Bowl and wins the SWAC, it's going to be, oh my God, I'm so glad we hired Terrence Graves. This was the best thing we could have ever done. But to your point though, when I hear the statement that you said that Roman Banks said, it reminds me of a statement like my parents used to tell me as a kid. Like, there's some things that you don't just come out right and just say. Mm-hmm. You might think a certain way, or you might have a certain bias toward it, but you shouldn't let it just come out. And I think more so with anything, I think everybody, if you're familiar with SWAC football, HBCU football, and the resources or the lack thereof at different times and in all the different schools, you kind of know what you're walking into. That doesn't mean that you want it to be that way, but at the same time, the notion and the saying of you're doing more with less, that's understood. You know that going in that, I'm not going to let this stop me from helping my players graduate, helping my team win a championship, or in this case, between the MEAC and SWAC, potentially playing in a Celebration Bowl. So I think that, more than anything, again, it's going to be interesting to see how Terrence Graves handles this situation, coming into the head coaching role at Southern. And like I said, I wish him nothing but success to see what he does for the program.
Well, I think what's interesting is the low pay, like you said, low pay, high expectations, but also SWAC has some of the highest paying job vacancies or whatever you want to say in FCS football. So when you say that, when you put that out, how do you guys expect other coaches to be reacting to that? Ones that might have thought like, hey, a storied program like Southern University, why not give it a shot? Why not go down there, help out some young black men? Why not? But with the low pay, high expectations, why is that? Why is that the case?
I actually talked to some coaches that were, in the process and interested in some of these jobs. And, one of them told me that out of the jobs that were vacant, they felt like Southern offered the best chance to win early. So there is some prestige with that job. There is a lot of history there. There is a lot of excitement there. But again, we talk about the changing landscape of college football, even at the HBCU level, where we had, I know a lot of people don't like to say his name, but Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, come in and. It had this small spring season, but then he went and won 2 championships back to back fairly quickly. And, maybe that's the new expectation that coaches are going to do that quickly. Again, Southern is a place they expect to win, all the time. And that's been their MO since Pete Richardson got back there. But nevertheless, we talk about Hugh Jackson over at Grambling State, who they still have a vacancy. They gave us the 7 to 10 days, and we're on like day 13. So, you talk about the expectations of a guy like Hugh Jackson, who came in with the name, who had had a not a great season the first season, in the middle of the road season this year, but they got rid of him very, very quickly. And you even look at Southern, they got rid of Dooley very quickly, 2 seasons, where, they had a coach prior to Dooley. And let's just be honest, Coach Dawson Odoms was very good at Southern. He always had them in the hunt, always in contention for that SWAC West title. If they didn't win it, they won SWAC West titles. He did win a title in 2013. But from what I understand, there was always some tension between him and the fan base. And, we get to that situation with the fan base, and it's a tedious thing because, everybody's passionate about it. Everybody has high expectations. Everybody wants to win. But, that takes money, that takes resources. But every place is different too. You look at Odoms, he left Southern, went to Norfolk State, and actually Dooley got fired and won, I think, more games in 2 years than Coach Odoms has won at Norfolk State in 3, and Coach Odoms is still ticking. So that just speaks to the difference in cultures and everything too, right?
And I'm glad you said that, because it made me think about this. You talk about money and resources. It also takes time. Like, just because you have – and how many times have we seen teams that are not even just within HBCU sports, but sports in general, have every great player, have all the right pieces, and still might not get to the promised land? And it really does take time. So you talk about that level of – having expectations. Like, yes, fans, they want to win. Southern is definitely a strong fan base that if they step on the field, they plan to win. They plan to compete for championships. They want their team to compete for championships right away. And I think
just in the SWAC championship.
Exactly. And it's just like, you have to remember that, these coaches, they're taking these jobs thinking that, okay, I'm giving the promise that I can lead this team, or at least attempting to lead this team to a championship. But at the end of the day, it all comes with a combination of multiple things. And I think when you look at with Southern and Dooley, like who gets mad at the fact that you have a coach who gets to the SWAC championship game, or he's always putting a team in contention to compete for a SWAC championship game, but he doesn't win. I mean, you got to think about what he did before even coming to Southern. Well, before we get to that, think about who he had to face, year before last against Jackson State in the SWAC championship game. You went up against essentially a unicorn. Like a locked and loaded Jackson State team under Deion Sanders. Like, I mean, could he have been beaten? Obviously so. South Carolina State and North Carolina Central showed us that. Right. But at the same time, like, it was hard to do. That doesn't make it an excuse, but at the same time, like, you lost to this guy.
Well, they alluded to the fact that it was more than just wins and losses, right, with Coach Dooley, which, again, that there's so many things that go on in a town, in a city, and again, Just back again, Southern is a very tight knit community. Everybody's very passionate about it, and so it's like like I'm from a small town. It's like if you don't speak to somebody, if you don't speak to like 3 people, you might get a reputation for being stuck up, and you might just be having a bad day. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and I don't know that that's the case there, but there's just so much that can go in a tight knit community that can impact it, and it's real. But now you have to deal with the reverberations of it. Now, I know Dooley was getting paid over $300,000. Do you have that again to keep forking out? There's so much of that. So there's a lot of layers to all of this for sure.
And then one thing I want to point out for Terrence Graves, which I like, and I think he's probably going to like this too. Louisiana's a hotbed for recruiting.
Definitely.
High school, junior
and
colleges.
He knows it.
Exactly. You've been at Southern, you've been at Grambling. Like, you have the capability to get some of the best players to essentially kickstart this team to potentially compete for a Sway West crown.